A subscriber asked me to make a video about my experiences traveling during the COVID pandemic. Now, I encourage subscribers to make suggestions for videos, but this one gave me pause. I generally don't like to do videos about transient events, but after some thought I realized travelers will have to deal with many transient waves of social disturbance in the future and as in the past. Perhaps my observations and experiences will prime future travelers into considering options when planning their routes. Flexibility is essential while on the road. A virus is basically just a bundle of genetic material protected by an outer layer with reactive trigger mechanisms used for transference. Now, since a virus has no intrinsic mechanism for mobility, it has to depend on external conveyances. The most common is the water droplet, something easily found on a planet filled with water. Being much larger than the virus, the water droplet not only provides a convenient transport, but it also keeps the virus from drying out. When the water droplet lands on the face mask, the fibers wick away the water, leaving the virus stranded. Now, the way the masks are designed, there are multiple layers which create air voids. When the virus gets trapped in these air voids, the outer protective cover begins to crack and dry out. When this outer layer is compromised, the sensitive inner core is exposed to the environment and disintegrates. Something similar happens when a disinfectant spray, a bleach-based cleaner, or soap is used. When a disinfectant spray, a bleach-based cleaner, or soap touches the virus, the oil bonds are broken and the lipids crack, thus exposing the sensitive inner core of the virus to the various chemicals. And by adding agitation, or like wiping or rubbing, the genetic material is utterly destroyed. Since retiring, living in an RV is essentially self-isolating and social distancing, so my life really hasn't been affected all that much, at least not as much as others who are, shall we say, more socially attuned. But I definitely did feel the effects. When the pandemic was still at its early stages, the initial recommendations was to social distance. Well, since I was already camping in the desert, away from most people, that was no problem. However, I did see groups of more popular YouTubers out there who were not overly interested in following that recommendation. But as more information came out about the virus, the next policy instituted by the stores definitely impacted me. Stores began to refuse to accept reusable grocery bags. And reusable grocery bags are my favorite way to carry supplies. They hold a lot of items and they're easy to unpack. But I was forced to accept those plastic bags, and I'm not a plastic bag fan. I've got all these, just laying around. Can't really do much with them. But the worst thing is the plastic bags don't really hold much, and they're really clumsy to get stuff out of because products stick to them, and the handles get in the way. Yeah. But yeah, I know it's a first world nation problem, but still, it's very inconvenient, especially after spending so many years getting my life efficient and using less bulk garbage. Then the madness began. People began panic buying, hoarding, and profiteering. The world went mad. Remember that? I watched all this from the distance, which affirmed my decision to camp in the desert away from civilization. As a traveler, I always ensure my stock of supplies is sufficient to last quite a while, since I never know when the next supply run will be. But even before this, I never knew if some other traveler may have depleted the stock of an item I usually get. So I was able to wait out most of the madness. Not long after, the stores had a mandate to wear masks. And since it was store policy and it made sense, I complied. Most people did comply. A few people didn't wear masks, but still. Although there were a few people who took things a little too far. They had face shield, masks, gloves, the whole thing, you know. People were panicking. Just more affirmation that my isolation from these overreactive people was a good decision. Of course, eventually I had to go to the stores and get supplies, and yeah, I was shocked at how many shelves were empty, especially the toilet paper aisle and the cleaning supplies, and for some reason the pasta sauce. Not sure why. However, I went over to the RV supplies area, and the whole shelf was full of RV toilet paper. Apparently, no one really bothered to look there. So, no problem. But wait, the panic thinking wasn't over with yet. When it was time to head north for the summer, I heard rumors that some camping spots were closed. I couldn't imagine that the small town camping spots would be closed. It didn't make sense, since the camping spots were all well over 6 feet apart. Yeah, the bathrooms and showers would be closed, but that made sense. So there I was, 1,500 miles from my summer retreat and the prospect of having no stays in between. Many small towns have web pages that refer to their parks. I use them to gather information. However, few of them keep their web pages updated with current information. So, I spent several days checking them and calling each place on my route list to see if they would be open, often months before I'd arrive. The towns that didn't have web pages or didn't respond to inquiries, I had to submit to fate upon arrival and be ready for contingency plans. Fortunately, the vast majority of city parks were open. Unfortunately, many were crowded because other campgrounds are closed. But I found contingency locations like rest areas, truck stops, and Walmarts, and they were busy with RVs too. Even now, as things seem to be calming down, although I think this is the lull before the third wave, you can still tell that the effects of the pandemic are still going on. There's actually a few small city towns that have decided to keep their places closed till the end of the year. That was kind of one of the inconveniences of having to drive both back north for the summer and down south for the winter. And also seeing that people are taking the pandemic slightly less serious than they really should. There's a bit more social gathering than there really should be. Not that I can blame people. I mean, it's been a long time since they've been able to, go out and socialize, and there are just some people in the world that need other people, and there are other people on the road here that like being out here in the middle of nowhere all alone, away from madness.